you.
So glad I can finally buy chocolate again. Cocoa prices plummeting. Great news in a sense.
How is it even possible that all of the cocoa trees grow in the Ivory Coast? Apparently it's like 2/3 of the world's supply, and now that Laurent Gbagbo has been captured, the prices of cocoa plummeting again.
Plummeting quite extensively, so it's quite fascinating to see how geopolitical
But I don't think this is going to end well, because, we know that Ouattara is not exactly, the best person on the planet. And the trouble with these places, as we were saying earlier, is there are no good guys and bad guys. There are one or two good guys, and then there are lots of bad guys. So I'm not too optimistic.
Well, speaking of good and bad guys, here we are, African Union, Jacob Zuma delegation, Libya, Muammar Gaddafi agreeing to reviewing a roadmap to end the civil war.
I'm sure he wrote it and then gave it to them, and then they arrived and gave it to him, right?
Well, I'm not really sure what happened, but what I can say is that it's great that we are starting to make headway. The question is, are we going to see some kind of reprieve on that oil price? And here we are talking about a softer oil price, and it's down 0.4%, and it's sitting at $126 a barrel.
So not exactly cheap.
No.
But I think, again, that's a place where, the naive assumption that you've got the good guys in the eastern part that are being supported by NATO, and then you've got the bad guy in Tripoli, that's not really right at all. There's a whole lot of tribal and other issues going on there. And that oil industry, we know, is privately held. The countries that I think are more at risk are those where the state runs the oil. So we'll have to wait and see. But my own prediction is that for the next 25 years, it's going to be unstable in the Middle East and North Africa, and oil prices are going to be elevated.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you know that you're always the bearer of good news. We know this. Let's delve into the US. So gasoline prices.
I know things are always going well in the US.
Very close to $4 a gallon. And the last time it was, the all-time high ever hits on gasoline prices in the US was exactly $4.11. Guess when that was? It was in July 2008. Deja vu. ECB hiking rates, gasoline prices very close to those all-time highs. We've got oil prices quite elevated as well. We've got the debt ceiling in the US breached, basically. We've got Barack Obama talking about extending the limit on government borrowing, which is currently at $14.3 trillion. Your sense in terms of all of this?
No, look, things are looking good in the US. Apparently, everyone who has a car there, everyone who wants a car there has one. Everyone that wants to drive is already driving. Fuel consumption, I think, has sort of leveled off. So if it gets very expensive, that's fine. Only the rich people will drive. As far as the deficit's concerned, well, as that economy starts to rebound, tax revenues will rise, and the employment benefits and so on will cease having to be paid. The other important thing that I'm reading over the weekend is that they're just going to raise the retirement age. Now that solves all of your financial problems right there, because
which actually should have been done anyway already a long time ago.
Because people are living longer, So apparently they're going to raise the retirement age in the US till 70, and that makes the entire fiscal crisis evaporate. So there you go. You can stop worrying about that.
Okay, let's not worry too much about that. Let's look into Alcoa.
Yes,
Alcoa,
more importantly,
JP Morgan, we've got earnings season that is set to kick off, and that is quite exciting.
These fabulous US companies just come out with their earnings almost immediately. The quarter actually ends. With Alcoa, I see people looking for like 27 cents a share of earnings, and that's on revenues for the quarter of about $6 billion, which makes it a tiny and irrelevant and utterly unimportant company, but it is part of the Dow, and it is the first to get its numbers out. So it does set the tone. Obviously, it's a share which follows Billiton and the other commodity stocks quite closely, so it's already run up quite a lot. I've seen people indicating that whatever the earnings are, it's going to go down because, it's had such a good run. People probably will be disappointed.
You're also expecting 27 cents per share.
My detailed model, it was not clear whether I was kicking out 25 or 28, but I'm going with the consensus on 27. I'm joking, of course. I have no model. I just read the
as long as they're good, and as long as everyone is happy after those numbers are released, that's what you basically base everything on.
Well, as far as I know, they're in the aluminium game, and they're involved with smelting and producing stuff. They kicked out all of the downstream stuff. So it's a commodity player. You'd expect them to be doing well in this environment, rebounding,
So Donald Trump for president, your thoughts on that? We had
I cannot imagine that is the best presidential candidate that they can come up with to run against Barack Obama. I mean, it's never easy running against an incumbent. If the unemployment rate goes down to below 7% or something, there's no sitting president running for a second term who's ever failed to get elected. In other words, those few that haven't has been when unemployment's been very high, and that kind of makes sense. So Barack Obama has got, another year or so before the election to get that rate down. I suspect that, in fact, is going to happen. I don't think anyone has got a chance against him. But having said that, I am convinced the Republican Party has got to come up with somebody better than a bankruptcy expert with a fake toupee on top of his head. That just can't happen. It cannot happen. I cannot believe that.